Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Nolan. I'm a customer success advisor here at Novi Labs. Thanks for joining us today. All right, it's been a little bit since we had one of these webinars, and there's been a lot of developments here at Novi. So we figured why not just have everyone come in, join us, and we'll go over all of the latest and greatest coming out of the Novi Labs Insight Engine. So before we get too far underway, let's do a little bit of a recap here. So if this is your first time joining in on this, you're just hearing about Novi. Let's talk about who Novi is. So Novi is energy analytics reimagined. We use cloud-based AI, proprietary and state-provided data sets to create analytical data sets that'll drive returns on your energy investments. Our products are designed to improve your return on capital expenditure. You can see we kind of have this process lined out here that allows you to automate and create thousands of scenarios and choose the best one. The algorithms and the systems that we use to generate these forecasts are unbiased. They're really looking for similarities in data. It's not really stuck in a tight type curve defined area that's kind of, picked by hand. And it's scalable. So you get to use it as a force multiplier for your engineering teams. So our key market differentiators, we have proprietary data where we'll go out and license data from operators, mainly monthly production data, but we also have a give to get relationship for completions information. We use data-driven insights to develop our recently released intelligence platform, and we'll use all of our data to build out things like sticks, do deep dives on some M&As, and look at corporate investment outlines. And we're also industry-leading applied AI. Currently have one patent and two more pending on our processes for utilizing AI to help derive better forecasts. And the products that we currently offer to the market are our Insight Engine, which is what we're going to be covering today, as well as Analytics, which is that AI platform that allows you to derive and create your own forecasts, as well as merge and blend data sets together. And Novi Intelligence, which is that next step that we've recently moved into, which will provide things like basin level analysis, operator rankings, inventory cost models, everything that you want to know about how to use and appropriately allocate funds. And if you're interested, we have this QR code here. If you'd like to sign up, we have some different levels of access, but if you use this QR code right here, it'll get you into the intelligence platform and give you an opportunity to kind of poke around, see what we're presenting, and see if it's something you'd be interested in discussing further. All right. So without further ado, let's jump into the Insight Engine. Here we go. Okay. So what I've got here is a saved filter set that I'm calling my recent producing wells. If you're following along at home, go right ahead and do that. I've just got it filtered down to horizontal wells that are currently producing. And, the last 5 or so years of production. I cut off 2025 because we're just kind of at the start of collecting that data. So I wanted a larger data set. And I'm taking the role of someone who's just kind of analyzing high level production. And you've recently heard about a new trend in the industry. So there's been this big development of drilling super deviated or S-turn, U-turn, J-hook, whatever you want to call them. But we're referring to them as U-turn wells in our platform here. So this is kind of the first new thing is we now have U-turn as an option to filter down to. So if I'm interested in at this high level assessment, I'm just going to go ahead and add these in because I want to kind of assess them alongside horizontal wells. And maybe I'm just learning about these and I want to figure out, where they are, who's drilling them, and how they compare to other operators' drilled wells. So what I'm going to do is I don't have an API number. I don't even have an operator, but I do have a section township range. I heard that there's these wells that were drilled out in Eddy County in New Mexico. So we're going to use our brand new zoom to location function. We're going to click right here. And this is where you can input an individual API or well name if you want to find that well. But for me, I just have a land grid. So I'm going to search for New Mexico. Then we're going to do Eddy County over there in the Delaware there. I heard it was in Township 23. Oh, sorry, not Pierce Township. So we're in Township 23. We are in Range 31. And we are in Section 29. Oh, 29. There we go. I'm going to do my best fit zoom. So once I've stipulated all of that, I can click on my zoom button and it'll actually center our map and put us right on top of those wells. So you can see they're kind of hidden in the background here, but once I click apply, we'll get our new U-turn wells showing up on the map. You can see they're pretty easy to spot. You get that really unique well bore shape and design. And so we have these wells that were drilled by Occidental over here in Eddy County. And yeah, let's take a look at them. So I'm just going to go over here and click on this well. You'll notice that we now have this other option here where you can kind of pan by and select any of the wells that are kind of close to each other. So let's take a look at this one. So I'm going to click on View Well Card, and it's going to pull up the well card where we've kind of stored all of the data that we've been able to gather for this well from the state or operator if provided by operator. We can get an idea of all the data available to us. So on our summary tab here, we can see we've got this tagged as a U-turn well in the second Bone Spring. We've got a lateral length of about 8,000 feet. So, in a one section area, you're getting almost a 2 mile worth of lateral exposed to that interval, which is probably one of the more compelling aspects of these U-turn wells. We've also recently introduced this new production tab. So if you haven't clicked around in the platform in a little bit, you can now go into the production tab and you'll be able to see all of the data that we've been able to source. And we even added in a quick one-click production export. So if you just need to pop into the Insight engine to find a well and export production for it, it's 2 clicks, right? First you find it in here, and then you just go straight to the well card and can download the production data out. And it just kind of came over in a different window for me, but it's an example of what that export looks like. We've also enhanced some of the options in our visualization up here. So for example, originally we just had months online so that you would get that decline curve through time, but we now also offer calendar dates. So if you wanted to view it by the period of time that it took place. And we had a whole bunch of other features get released for the well card too. So on top of the new production tab, in the gun barrel viewer, you'll notice that there is now also a size by option. So you can size by any of the attributes in here, such as prop per lateral foot. And now when you hover over, it'll actually provide that proppant per lateral foot as an attribute when you kind of hover over on your gun barrel viewer. And another thing to kind of show off is right here in our details pane, we are also now tagging wells that have a directional survey. You'll see right here, we have this new directional survey, and we'll also tell you if it's the as drilled or the planned survey. So just a really quick way to drill down to wells that have the most data available. In addition to being able to see that data in here as a attribute of the well, you can also go into your filter set. And if you haven't seen this before, this view of the filter tray is kind of your sample, right? It's our top 20 or so column headers that you can utilize as a filter. If you click on this gear icon, you can actually see all of the filters that are available. So if you wanted to just filter to wells that have a directional survey, you can just search for that there, and boom, we just added is directional survey available as a filterable object in this platform. There you go. Now it's just right down here, so you can say yes or no. Okay, another neat feature, I'm always a big fan of keyboard shortcuts. So let's say here, I'm going to go back up to that kind of 10,000 foot view here, back to the very top. Say you wanted to take a look at this well again, and you want to very quickly come back to it. Say you've got this API number saved down, right? If you hold down Control or Command if you're on a Mac and click A on your keyboard, you just have a single pop-up like this. So right here, we can just select that well. It'll highlight it and open up the well card. And it'll give us that selection on the map as well, so you can very easily find that well. But now that I found this well, what do I want to do with it? Well, I want to actually go and do a workflow where I'm going to take a look at the production and compare it to the horizontal wells that are around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my lasso icon right here, and this is going to change my mouse around a little bit. I want to center it on this this 32 here. So I'm going to go 2 over and 2 up. We're just going to kind of lasso that way. Right to here and here. There we go. So I'll finish drawing this off, and it kind of narrows us down to around 100 or so wells, a couple of different operators, and we can go and use our charts now. So up here in this chart, we're looking at oil rate versus time. We're currently showing the average oil rate barrels per day, but another new feature is we're also supporting monthly. So if we select monthly here, it'll kind of increase our volumes to their monthly rates and give us the average monthly production. We're currently grouping by first production year, but I want to look at current operator. So there we go. So now we're getting that average oil rate barrels per month through time, and we have each one of these operators kind of stood up against one another. So if I go and full screen this, we'll also see another new feature, which is this average line. So you can see, probably because the area that we've lassoed is very much Occidental, Occidental is weighted very heavily in the average. So they are just about the average. Now that we've lassoed these wells down, what we want to do is go and take a look at the production for these wells. So I'm just going to change my color by option from operator to cum 12-month oil. There we go. Okay, so what are we looking at here? We've got our U-turn wells here in this section 32, and then we have a couple of other wells that have been drilled around it. We're currently kind of centered on this section 32. And we've expanded out in either direction to kind of pick other wells that have been completed in similar geography, similar geology, and are probably comparable in some way. And the thing that I was trying to highlight here is we have this J-hook well that's drilled in a single section and has about 8,000 foot of the well bore that's exposed to the well. And it's giving us about, we'll round this up to 300,000 barrels in the first 12 months. And then we have these wells up here that are about 2.5 sections worth of land being drilled. We're getting about 475 or so. So you can almost get about 75, 70% of the production in one section from a well that's drilling through one section compared to this well that's drilling through and chewing up good rock through, in this case, 2.5 different sections. And that can be one of the reasons why someone would want to drill one of these kind of U-turn wells. Other things about, like, you've got your well bore, or sorry, you've already got your pad built and drilled out, and you need to reach into a section that you're border on, but maybe you don't have the full you want to try and get 2 miles worth of production out of one section that you have access to. So that's just another way that you can go about doing that, is with these new U-turn wells. So it's just interesting to see that the ingenuity never stops in the oil and gas industry here. A couple more options and new things that we want to show off here. So we've got our wells that we want to compare to one another, and we want to look at them further. So we've added a couple of new options in the export menu that will allow you to kind of work on this further. So let's call this Eddy U-turn export, just like that. And I'm going to export my wells layer. I'm also going to pull out production. So let's do oil, gas, and water. And another new option in here, if you haven't exported from the platform in a little bit, is the ability to pull out directional surveys. So we can pull these ones out too. Maybe you want to get a look at the directional surveys for these wells and see the station points, the inclination, MD, and get an idea of how these are drilled. What I'm going to do here is, now that I've selected that, click export, and it's going to send that request off to our server to process. So if I wanted to very quickly get back to this well, say I wanted to share this with a colleague, say I lost the file, I wanted to figure out how to reproduce it, you can hop over into this history panel here, and you'll see here's the request I just sent in, that Eddy U-turn export, and it's currently processing. But if I ever need to recreate this, I can click on this View Details button, and it'll share what did I export on the left-hand side here. And it'll say what were the actual filters that I applied to my export. So it just makes it really easy to come back and get the data set that you exported, see how things have changed through time, and have an easy comparator head-to-head that way. So I'm going to hop back to a different view here to show off another recent feature that we've loaded into the platform. So let's get everything back on the map. Let us go by current operator here. And I'm going to click zoom to data to pull us out. I'm basically just going back to no filters on the map. This is that Novi default filter that all of our users have loaded in. And I want to take a look at the brand new shapefile feature. So I'm going to turn off my wells and land grids and click on this gear icon in the map layer right here. So this is going to open up a new menu that'll give us the ability to upload and manage shape files. So in this case, if we look at my map layers, I currently have an EOG acreage shapefile that I've loaded onto the map. And if I hide my various menus here, you can see we've got a bunch of red on the map, and that's that operator shapefile. And recently I heard about the acquisition going on with Encino. So I wanted to get an idea of where do they overlap? Where's Encino's acreage relative to EOG, and how can I view that? So I'm just going to go over here and call this Encino acreage, just like that. And then I have my shapefile. I'm going to drag and drop it over here. There we go. So it just loaded this yellow shapefile on. This is the Encino acreage map. And let's see, I'll make this green. And let's make it a little bit darker too. There we go. That's the opacity filter right or option right there. What I'm going to do is instead of putting it in this other or creating another one, I'm just going to group it under my EOG acreage shapefile. So I'm just going to select that as my group and click save. There we go. So now when I come over here to my shapefile, I have that EOG acreage shapefile, and with one click, I can very easily turn on and off these two shapefiles to get an idea of where these two operators are positioned. All right, so I'm going to use my favorite shift and pan view here, and we can see that EOG is kind of off here in, what is that? Tuscarawas County. And then we've got Encino over here in Harrison and Carroll and Jefferson and a little bit of Columbiana up there too. So we can see, maybe they made this move to get access to the further east into this kind of oil-rich Utica shale that Encino has a great position on. Okay. So that was a jam-packed overview of the new features and functions that we've kind of baked into the Insight Engine platform. We have new export options. We have brand new data sets, such as the U-turns that we're kind of calling out now in our direction filter, and all of the kind of bells and whistles that come along with it. Oh, especially all the new stuff that we loaded into the well card there. So now I think we usually leave about 10 minutes or so I'm right on time for some Q&A. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat. Could be on new functionality. If you have any questions or insights about U-turn wells you'd like to share, J-hooks, S-turns, any of that fun stuff, feel free to post in the chat and we'll see if we can answer some questions here.
Yes, thank you, Jim. This was very good. Please, if anybody has any questions, write it on the chat and we can start answering. One of the things that we could, until folks put certain questions on the chat, that we could expand a little bit more is if we were to select, for example, a well or a set of wells and show our forecasts, and we can talk a little bit about how we develop those forecasts.
Let's go ahead and do that. So where's that well that we had? I have it here. Yeah, let's get back to that view we had a second ago. There we go. So we're now zoomed in. We've now turned on our U-turn wells. And we can click apply there. There we go. Oh, I turned off my land grids. That'd be useful to see as well. There we go. Yeah, what's really useful is we can, as Jorge was mentioning, so we are loading in PDP forecasts for every producing well that is loaded into the Insight Engine platform. And if you're viewing it in this oil rate versus time chart up here, we can just click very easily right here on the Show Hide Forecast button. And what it will do is it will bridge on our forecasted production months to our existing production months and just kind of give you a single decline curve through time. So let's full screen this a bit. Let's show our sliders too. This will give me the ability to kind of exaggerate our X and Y axis a bit. There we go. Yeah, we can go all the way out and see, when do these wells start to drop off and stop producing? Wow, these are actually pretty productive through time. So if we wanted to get out to the first 60 months of production, right, first 5 years or so, We can see how all of these wells do in comparison to one another. Or sorry, these operators in this case. We're not looking at individual wells quite yet.
Thank you, Jim. And for folks, these forecasts are a combination of first a time machine regression algorithm for machine learning that will extend those actual values up to 3 years after. And then after that, we do a ARPS fit to the curves. And so that's how we get the most accurate forecast we can possibly have. There is also a few questions now in the chat.
Yeah, I see one from Terry asking, where are we pulling well data from? So you're right. For Texas, we would be pulling it from the RRC. In this case, we're over in New Mexico, so that'd be the NMOCD for well location, production, permitting. Yeah, they're the regulatory agency du jour in New Mexico, so that's where we'd be grabbing that. And then I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the call that on top of the state reported regulatory data, we also get a level of data from certain operators. We build out relationships with them to license their production data directly from them, and we use that kind of as a hierarchy above the state data. And for a state like Texas, since that was mentioned, it's a huge benefit because production data there is reported at a lease level for oil. So having a real source of truth instead of trying to extrapolate from an extrapolation, which is what a lot of other folks have to do, is super powerful. If we don't have a direct relationship with the operator, just having a source of truth allows us to better tune our allocation algorithms for the wells that do need to be allocated. Can you easily export well data to Aries? We don't have a specific file format for exporting to Aries, but that's definitely something that we could pursue in the future. And then is there data collected from operators? This is another thing I mentioned. So we have the Novi data network for production, which is shared with everyone through the Insight Engine platform. We have our analytics data set, or sorry, platform, which is a give to get for completions data. So what kind of things are included with that, Jorge?
Oh, yes. We have this consortium, same to share data, and it's more complete. It has details of completion designs, and that for the folks that are interested, you have to kind of participate. You have to share your data to get others' data. And the type of information you get is well header information, location, bottom hole, formation selection, stages, clusters, and other important information that help us have more reliable and complete data compared to what you will find in the public realm.
We have another question too, which is, can you compare normalized oil production per 1,000 foot? So rate versus time, right? So that's what we're seeing up here in this rate versus time. We actually have that option baked in. So we've got not normalized, which means it's just the gross production. We're not doing any sort of normalization factor. And right here, we can just choose per 1,000 foot. So there we go. Yeah, here, we'll turn off the forecast so we can zoom in on the actuals a bit. We can get an idea of how that production changes on a per foot basis. And we can even say, oh, let's gross everything up to a 2-miler, right? Put everything on a comparable footing there too. There we go. And then are the forecast parameters downloadable? How often are the forecasts being updated? Yeah, we run new forecasts every month when a new data point is added to the full production data set. And you can export the parameters as well. I didn't show it off, but this forecast segments table that's in the export options here allows you to do that. So we'll just click in here. It'll give you per well, per product. It'll give you the type of curve that we're fitting. So for each PDP forecast, we're fitting 3 different curves to our production forecasts. And then the ARPS parameters are kind of over here too. Your B factor, nominative decline, effective secant. It's all available for download. Is there a minimum time required for production history before we can start building a forecast for the well? I think we just need at least 1 month before it can start working. I think
Okay.
yeah,
If
right?
if I may elaborate, yeah, that's correct. So basically, if we have 1 month of actuals, then we use our time machine learning model to get the best approximation of that forecast. Now, one of the things that people may need to realize is that those forecasts are created with all the information of nearby wells, the geology, spacing, and all that helps inform. Having actuals help, obviously, but if you have 1 month of production, we will use that. And obviously, if you have 6 months later, then we recalculate them, and then you will have a better quality forecast. So the more time you have of actuals, the better forecast it will be. But it doesn't stop us to create a forecast even with as little as 1 month. And in comparisons to other methodologies, tends to be quite surprisingly accurate.
We have a couple more questions coming through in the chat, but we are also at our time commitment. Is there a quick one? Well, we have a question. Can we talk more about Novi Analytics? I think, Jorge, that'd be more in your realm.
Nelson Suarez, I'll tell you what, we will send you an email if you would like to chat about analytics, and happy to discuss anything. Or you can find me on LinkedIn and send me a post, and I will be happy to connect with you and talk to you about analytics. There's another question of why do we use ML to extend forecast to 3 years and then ARPS for the rest? What we've seen is in general, you can imagine that creating a machine learning forecast is quite expensive. And in terms of return for the value, for all that effort, we have seen that 3 years is good enough to give you the 3 years is the most difficult part. And so those 3 years, we are very precise with machine learning and then ARPS. So we just felt like it wasn't necessary to run a machine learning all for like 10 years or more than that. 3 years will do the most of the heavy lifting.
We're a little bit over, but I appreciate everybody for sticking on the line for the extra Q&A. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. My email is jnolan@novilabs.com. You can always reach out with any of your questions or concerns. We're always here to listen to what folks have to say. We'll end the meeting here and thank everybody for your time. Bye now.
Thank you. Have a good day.